Hello, everyone. So we are just waiting for everyone to join in. We are looking to check if people are able to hear us well. You can just put in the chat window that you can hear us well so we know. Just waiting for a few confirmations so we know you can hear us well. Perfect. Great. So welcome to the session, and we do realize that Zoom fatigue is real, so we decided to do it outside Zoom if it helps. Though we will try to keep the conversation engaging enough so you know that so you essentially discover a lot of things about what ISB looks for and what will help you get into ISB. Uh, Before that, before we get into the session, just to get a feel of what audience profile we have, why don't you put in the number of years of experience that you have? So just put in a number. What year of experience? How many years of experience do you have? Okay. So typically, what I see is a good number of people have between 3 to 5 years of experience. That exactly the audience that ISB is also interested in, the class average being between 4 to 5 years often. So great. And then, of course, there are deviations on either side. There are people with higher experience, lower experience, but no problem. We will cover that as well. So welcome to the session. Welcome again. We have a good number of you joined in. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Prashant Tibrewal. I'm the founder of Admit Square Consulting and ISBmantra. I founded ISBmantra with two former admissions officers from ISB with a strong focus on mentoring candidates with genuine advice, authentic guidance, and it's been 10 years now. We have mentored over 1,000 applicants to ISB and the focus has grown only stronger with 4 former ISB admissions officers and 30 plus alumni from ISB as part of our team now. On that note, glad to introduce Sanjay Dhingra, who is an ISB alum, PGP alum from the class of 2012. He was also an admissions officer at ISB, and 4 years with the ISB admissions team, he handled domestic and international admissions to the ISB PGP, the early entry option, the YLP, PGP Pros, almost all programs, reviewing real applications, interviewing candidates. So we hope he brings in some very exciting insights through his experience, through his conversation. And he has recently joined our team at ISBmantra as the chief mentor. So welcome, Sanjay, and welcome everyone in this live session. Through the next 1 hour, we will try to touch upon a good part of the ISB admissions process and ways to make your application stronger. Many of you have sent in your questions well in advance. Thank you for that. So we will try and touch upon those, and that has certainly helped us plan our conversation better. So without further ado, let's start by understanding the recent changes that have been introduced in the ISB program structure from this year. ISB announced something called the ISB 2.0. So Sanjay, how is it different, and what are the changes that candidates can expect in the coming years based on what ISB presents as the ISB 2.0?
Sure, Prashant. Firstly, thank you to everyone for attending this session. It's really good to see the interest. We are at 350 plus attendees right now, which is really exciting. Prashant, coming to your question about the major changes in ISB 2.0, right? So the one biggest change is the introduction of something called as the Digital Head Start module. Now, what is the Digital Head Start module, or DHM, going to be about? It's going to be a 10-week module that students would do before coming to the campus. So it's going to be something which is going to be delivered online. That's why it's digital head start. In this module, the students would cover 4 core courses. So these would be credit courses, which usually happen in term 1. These would happen in the 10-week digital head start module. They'll do some independent study projects under faculty guidance. These are being called as Jumpstart India projects, where students would get to work on practical research, nation building projects, maybe with government departments, could be with not for profits, could be with other organizations working towards the organization and nation building. And then there would be some co-curricular activities along with the leadership development program kickstarting during this 10-week period. One other important change, and this was a change which we were aware of even before the COVID-19 crisis, is that ISB is now going to have a slightly different model to its classes, even the regular courses. So each course would have 16 hours of in-class module and 4 hours of asynchronous learning. So basically, online learning that may happen. So consequently, the program structure, the duration, and all of that is going to be changed. Uh, Including the DHM, the overall program duration is now going to become 52 weeks from the earlier 49 or 50 odd weeks it used to be. So now it's going to be one complete calendar year instead of the slightly lesser 1 or 2 week duration. So these are some exciting changes and really good to see ISB taking a head start in incorporating the blended classroom model, which it was experimenting with the PGP Pro and also introducing it to the PGP now. So some
Interesting.
really exciting changes over there.
Yes, very much, and clearly these are meant to enhance the experience of the participants. There is a good hybrid element to it, even when you are on campus. So I see that candidates will be or participants will be able to take advantage of faculty learning from faculty, even who are not on campus. So looks very exciting.
True.
And of course, ISB opened its application for the 2021 intake last week, and there are some interesting changes. One, the application deadline is 20th of September for round one, whereas round two deadline isn't announced yet. This isn't how it happens every year. So what I anticipate is it's also because of the COVID situation and its impact on the availability of GMAT centers, GMAT dates. So probably ISB wants to assess and make round two as convenient as possible for applicants. So which means that of course we have a clear deadline of around 1 of September 20th in front of us. On the other hand, on the essay questions, the word limit has remained the same. The career goal essay, which is essay 2, has generally remained the same for a few years now. But essay 1 is something that has got a new flavor. So we'll touch upon that. We will talk about how to handle the essay question in detail. But before that, it's important to understand what does ISB look for in a candidate. So Sanjay, with your experience in ISB admissions, what would you say are the key qualities that ISB looks for?
Okay. So Prashant, if and the audience, if you attend any of the ISB info sessions and if you ask this to the admissions team, our usual response used to be academic credentials, leadership potential, and personal attributes. These are the three things that the school looks for in a prospective ISBN. Now, what do these imply? That it's more important to understand what do these three terms imply. So when I say academic credentials, it's basically to measure your learnability. You have to see how well would you be able to cope up with the curriculum at ISB with the rigor of the program. This is visible through your GMAT score, your previous academic records. How have you done at the undergraduate level, at the class 12 level, or if you have done a master's program previously, then how your grades have been over there. These tell the school of your learnability, your ability to absorb content, and you learn things in a you're under a time constraint and pressure, which is what the GMAT technically measures you on. The other thing that the school looks for, and this becomes visible from your career goals essay or essay number 2, is your employability. What are your past experiences? What are your career goals? How do the two align? Do they make sense, or your career goals are just too unrealistic for even the school to deliver? So, this is the second thing which gets subtly measured. And the third thing that gets measured by something, by what the school calls personal attributes, is the distinct value that you bring to the cohort, right? So, what kind of extracurriculars you have, what kind of diversity you bring to the cohort, what kind of extra interests, hobbies, passions you have, what are your personal qualities. So this gets visible through your extracurriculars, your entire application, and also through the first essay this year.
Interesting. And so, what I hear, the keywords I hear are learnability and employability. Obviously,
That's right.
learnability can be demonstrated through the GPA and GMAT. And I want to discuss more about the GMAT, whereas employability is something that you mentioned one can present through the essay, especially the career goal essay. And what I would also add there is that your application form plays a big role in establishing your employability, because there are sections for your key responsibilities, your achievements. And if you can show the right career progression through those sections, then it does showcase how you have done really well at your job, because not everything can be presented through the essays. But coming back to the GMAT, of course, GMAT is the first step, first hurdle for that matter, and candidates are often concerned about how important is GMAT to the entire scheme of things. If I have a low GMAT, can a good application compensate that? So what would you say is the weightage given to GMAT in a typical ISB application?
Mm, so, Prashant, usually the school is not very comfortable discussing the exact weightage. The admissions team likes to play it close to the chest and not really share the exact percentage. So, I'm not going to reveal that as well. While I'm privy to it being an ex admissions officer at the school, I'll not share the exact percentage. But what I will do, what I will share or give an indication of, is that if you look at most global schools and including ISB, the percentage of weightage assigned to GMAT is between 25% to 35%. Now, ISB tends to be towards the higher side of this range. So, yeah, there is significant impact, but this is not the only factor, right? Your application, your essays, your profile, all of those cumulatively make have a larger weightage, make more impact, and that's why you'll see applicants with strong application, good profiles, good extracurriculars, making it with GMAT scores as low as 600 or 610 as well. And there would be applicants with really high GMAT scores getting rejected because besides the GMAT, they are not showing any other strength in their application. So it is one factor to look at, but yes, it's an important factor. I will also share this on the AWA because there's question around AWA and how important that is. So it does have a nominal weightage. It's not too much. So
Mhm.
until and unless your AWA score is below a 4, no reason to retake the GMAT just because of the AWA. If you're taking it to improve your overall score, yes, it makes sense. But don't take it just because of the AWA if you're scoring above a 4 on the AWA.
That's interesting insight. And what we are also getting a lot of questions through the chat is about the GMAT at home, which is currently available. So there are concerns about should candidates go ahead and take that test? Will ISB not value it so much? Also, it doesn't have the AWA. So what is your take? What would you recommend candidates who are looking to take the GMAT now?
So my advice would be to go ahead and take it. So ISB is accepting online GMAT scores. Almost all global schools are accepting the online GMAT scores. They understand their restrictions because of COVID. So uh, test center, taking the exam is not a real possibility for a lot of candidates across the globe. And online GMAT scores are being accepted by most and almost all of them. So ISB is doing that as well. So no reason to hesitate. On the other hand, I personally believe there may be certain advantages to taking the GMAT at home. You're taking it from the comfort of your environment. Don't have to take the AWA section, which can be exhausting before you jump into the quant section. So since you directly start off with the quant, go to the verbal, and then the IR, you're jumping to the critical sections directly without mentally exhausting yourself with the AWA. So, and you're again taking it from the comfort of your home where you know the environment. There are no surprises, there are no shocks, there are no stresses. So, my advice would be to go ahead with the online GMAT.
Right. Thanks for that, Sanjay. So, of course, what I hear is that it is, instead of being concerned about it, use it to your advantage. Get that home advantage, if I may rephrase it, and
Absolutely.
probably Of course, what you say, AWA, don't be too concerned about it. ISB knows that there have been concerns, on test center GMAT availability. But then, what I would also add is don't wait for the test centers to open, because there it is important to apply in round one. Take advantage of the fact that all the seats are open to you. So if you can take the GMAT, get done with it. If you're prepared, that is, of course, if you're not prepared, then you can always wait. But if you're prepared, don't wait for the centers to open. um, so having said that, Sanjay, one question that often comes up is, what is a good GMAT score for ISB? I mean, there are different profiles. People think that candidates less than 750 cannot make it to ISB. So there are a lot of questions that I've been getting, even otherwise, from candidates. So what would you say is a safe GMAT score for ISB?
So, Prashant, there's truthfully no safe score. The reason I say this is that I have seen candidates or rejected candidates even with GMAT scores above 750, and I've also admitted candidates with lower GMAT scores. Now, it is about the overall profile, overall application that matters. So, GMAT is, yes, an important component amongst the most important components, but it's not the only component. It's not the only parameter, right? Your previous academic scores, your profile, your work achievements, your career growth, trajectory, your goals, your interview performance, a lot of other things matter as well. So do your best with the GMAT, but you try to score as high as you can. It does give you an advantage, but that's not the only thing. That's what I'll say up front. Now, if you ask me what is what a candidate who's starting his or her preparation or is midway through the preparation should ideally aim for, I would say aim to cross the average of the school. So the current average is around 710, 711. So aim to cross that gives you an advantage compared to other applicants. So aim to be 720 and above. And if you're 750 or above, that means you're at the highest possible rating on the GMAT bucket. So no reason to, once you've touched 750, don't retake, with the goal of scoring a 770 or a 780, because it really doesn't matter. You're going to score the same on the GMAT. So you aim to cross 720. Best case scenario is 750 plus. But yeah, that's how it is on the GMAT. Also, GMAT can be a differentiating factor for those who are coming from an overrepresented IT pool, say an applicant pool like IT, or someone who's coming from a very vanilla, plain profile with not many spikes or outstanding achievements to showcase. So, for those applicants, the GMAT may be a factor that can help them stand out. So, yes, do your best with the GMAT. Similarly, yep, okay. Sorry,
Right.
go ahead.
Yeah, makes sense. And what you're saying is, yes, the GMAT is important. Try giving your best, but there's no safe score. So give your best, retake it if required, but don't get stuck on GMAT. But
That's right.
but
Focus on making a strong application as well. That's equally important as well.
Right. And what we often hear is that GMAT, of course, once you have got in, then a lot of top consulting companies, the MBBs, they do appreciate if you have, or they do value a high GMAT. So would you say that a good GMAT is important to get a role at McKinsey, let's say?
So yes, if you look at globally, right, even at the likes of Harvard, Wharton, Kellogg, all of these schools, GMAT does become a filtration criteria for consulting companies, right? A high GMAT score is an indication of your analytical ability, your ability to process data, a lot of information, your evaluate content or your information that you would get from various sources. So GMAT does is a strong indicator. Of course, your academics, your grades at ISB matter as well, but GMAT does play an important role for consulting companies. And if you are a consulting aspirant, then you are better off scoring a 720 plus, doing well in academics at ISB as well. But scoring above the average would be a highlight in your resume. So yes, if you are aspiring for any of the hyper competitive industries, consulting, investment banking, venture, you want to be a venture capitalist or something like that, private equity space, then yes, do aim to score high on the GMAT.
Interesting. Great. So that helps us understand the GMAT requirement well. And now let us deep dive into the application essays, which a lot of candidates are eager to talk about or hear about. How? how to handle the application, what is important when they develop the essays. So starting with essay one, what do you think ISB is looking for this year through the essay one? They have a prompt that is changed this year, so please add some light there.
So, okay, those of you who are unaware, who have not yet logged into the application portal and seen the topic, I'm just gonna read out the topic for your convenience. So this year's first essay topic is describe with examples the most important personal quality that you possess, which significantly enhances your prospects of being successful as a leader. So, fairly long descriptive topic over there. And the word limit is 400 words for this. So, it's a fairly in-depth topic and a fairly difficult topic as well, right? Firstly, identifying that what should be the most important personal quality is a challenge. Then having significant examples which showcase that quality in you through your past experiences, that becomes another challenge, and it's important. So there are a lot of things over there. Uh, of course, for more details on this, I have recently published a blog on e-GMAT's blog about this, about the essay topics for this year. But just to give some insights or some highlights from that over here, first thing is to understand the school's objective behind asking this particular question. Why is the school focusing on one personal or the most important personal quality rather than just asking you broadly, what do you bring to the table? Why should you be one of the admits to the class of 2022, the intake of 2021, which is what the topic of last year was, to a certain extent. So instead of keeping it broad based, the school is getting very specific on one or the most important personal quality. So identifying that one unique quality that you can bring to the diverse quality that the cohort cumulatively will have, that is important. It's not to say that your quality needs to be different than all the 850 plus or 900 qualities that the other students would have. It is to say what is that one unique thing or the most important value addition that you bring to the cohort. And this may overlap with other applicants as well, which is all right. But what is it, that one unique trait that you have that makes you stand apart from the crowd?
Right. So my follow-up question there will be, yes, I have identified the quality that I want to present. Now, how do I establish the quality that they are looking to present as candidates through the essay? What kind of things they should touch upon in those 400 words?
Okay, so okay, lots of things, and that's where the challenge is, because you're structuring your response to the essay needs to be interesting, needs to clearly highlight the quality, really showcase your strength as such, and it needs to happen in an engaging way. An application reviewer at ISB possibly reads dozens of applications on an average day, right? There are thousands of applicants. The team is compact, not too many people available, and the person's attention span is going to waver if your essay is not interesting, if it doesn't really catch attention. So that needs to be there. Now, the best way to establish the identified quality is to show rather than say. What I mean is that instead of saying that, hey, I believe I have this, I can possibly do this, show it through examples of the work that you've already done. So showcase your past rather than just talking about it in hypothetical examples. So, have real life examples over there. Now, to do this, the usual your management framework that anyone would apply over here is the STAR approach, which is situation, task, action, result. So describe the situation in brief, talk about the target or the task that you had in hand, what kind of action you took, and what was the outcome, what was the result. So do that. And again, you do understand there are multiple examples required. It's not just giving one example. So you are possibly going to showcase two or three examples, also elaborate a bit on the quality. So in 400 words, that's going to be the major challenge, to accommodate all of this in a logical structure, make it engaging, and still communicate all the information that you want to do. So that is going to be there. And of course, use examples from your work. If you are a early interruption applicant or a WILP applicant, so WILP applicants, of course, have different application and all of that. But if you're an early interruption applicant, then you can also possibly dig into college time examples. But if you're a PGP applicant with more than 2 years or 3 years of work experience, then ideally the examples should be from your workplace. So these should be professional examples. And also try to showcase how these qualities or how this quality you're going to leverage during and post ISB to become a leader in the true sense, right? So it needs to be not just giving examples, but also linking with your future and how you aim to achieve a leadership position in life, leveraging this particular quality. One thing that most applicants miss leveraging over here is the recommendation, right? So you are giving examples in your essay about the personal quality, but if your recommender is talking about something completely different, then that kind of disconnects with the application reviewer reader. So it's better if your recommender is also aligned with the same personal quality and also highlights that same quality through the recommendation. So leverage that as a platform as well. And yep, of course, you don't write the recommendation for yourself. Let your recommender do it. But it doesn't hurt if you discuss your past experiences, you discuss your recent work with your recommender, so that these points are fresh with your recommender when he or she is filling your recommendation form.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of insight and very
Good.
specific ways
Lots
to
of things
handle
to
that.
do as well. A lot of content over there, but yeah, that's the whole challenge about making the B School application.
Right. And I really like the point about recommendation where it is important and it's a good practice to sit with your recommender, have a chat. I mean, of course, you will have a chat that you're applying, but good to have a chat about the fact that there are certain qualities because your recommender, for you, it's your recommender, but for your recommender, there are several people he has worked with. So it is important that you have a chat with them, have a call scheduled. Of course, you're not meeting right now, so have a conversation around things that you have done. Remind them of what kind of things that you would have done, which will really add value to your application. And good to kind of course, your recommender allows the recommender to mention not just one but several qualities. So good to have a consistent set of qualities that the recommender can also back with good examples. So that's extra real estate, extra space where because like Sanjay mentioned, 400 words. When you start adding examples, you will see that it gets over very soon. So good space there for a recommender to also further establish how good you are at a certain range of things through specific examples. Great. And in the meantime, what I'll also add is that we are getting some questions from YLP applicants. So because there are very few YLP applicants in this session, so we would request you to send, because YLP has a different set of essay. So we would request you to send in an email to info@ISBmantra. You will get the email ID on your chat. So if you have specific questions to YLP, send it to us. We will focus on the PGP and early entry option essay questions here. And of course, early entry option essay questions are very much, and the process is very much the same as PGP. Great. So that brings me to S2, which is the career goal essay about short term and long term. So how can one keep the career goals focused and realistic? How should one approach the career goal essay?
Okay. So again, as I was saying, right, your personal quality that you highlight needs to align with your goals to certain extent as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But coming specifically to the career goals essay, right, uh, it is important to not go all over the place with that particular essay. So I've read essays where the person is talking about three different or four different career goals, and you want to do this over the next 2 3 years, then something else after that, then something else after that, and then something else after that. So it seems you're just all over the place, and seems that the person has just not thought this through and comes across very immature as well. Now, so the first thing to focus on is to be specific about your plans, especially the short term plans, right? So what are you expecting immediately post the ISB PGP? What are your goals for the next 3 to 5 years? Don't get too hung up or too engrossed in detailing your plans for, say, a long term future or beyond, because 10, 15, 20 years down the line, you're possibly you or even the I or any application reviewer knows that the world is changing very fast. So, what you are expecting today, 15 years down the line, may not really be possible or true, right? So it's a very vague long-term future. So don't get too engrossed in detailing that. You can have some broad goals over there that, hey, you want to be leading an organization in this space, you want to be doing this kind of broad work or all of that, but don't get into, hey, I want to be the CEO of a company, or I want to be a vice president leading this particular division, all of that, which is a given default, right? If you're an ISB alum, in the long run, you would possibly reach that C level, C-suite kind of designation eventually. So don't get too engrossed in detailing that, but be more specific about your short-term plans. Uh, Again, keep your short-term goals consistent with your past. So don't try to completely deny or underplay your past, especially since you're coming to a program where the average experience is 4 to 5 years. Future recruiters are going to look at your past experience. They are not going to discount it completely, right? So if you are making a completely different career track and you're saying that your past is not going to play a role in the future at all, then basically you're saying that you are yourself devaluing or assigning a zero value to your past experiences. So do not underplay it. If you recognize that the industry or the role that you're aspiring for is an extremely competitive one, it's super difficult to get through, it may not be a bad idea to present a plan B as well, to say that, hey, I'm looking at these two particular paths, these are my options, I'm open to exploring both of these, and want to give them my best shot. And but do keep in mind that both of these plans, right, the plan A and plan B, align with your long term plans, right? They shouldn't be, so your starting points may be different, but finally they need to lead to the same end goal. Only then it makes sense. Otherwise, what would happen is you're talking about two plans which are running completely on completely different tracks, and the application reader, would be like, what are you looking to get out of the program? What have you thought through? Because there's no consistency between these two options that you're giving. So identify the ultimate destination. It need not be extremely specific in terms of designation, role, or organization, but needs to be a little generic in terms of what kind of impact you are looking to create as a leader in the future. And then there could be maybe one plan or two plans which lead to the same destination in the long run. Uh, Again, one thing which happens with a lot of applicants is that they try to impress the admissions committee, admissions team by their research on the school, about why ISB and why are they looking to come over there. And they tend to dedicate a lot of words just on why ISB. Now, think about it from this point. What is something new that you can tell to the admissions team or the admissions committee that they have not already heard about in the why ISB section, right? Uh, the program is fairly, the structure is available to everyone, the courses are available to everyone, the faculty, the visiting faculty model, all of that, all the applicants already know. So it becomes very repetitive when every applicant is spending, say, 7,500 words just talking about why ISB. So yes, identify some unique things about the program that are relevant to your career goals, your mid to long term goals, but keep it short and sweet. Don't waste your 100 odd words just talking about why ISB. It could be 50 words, 70 words, something like that. Keep it short and sweet, and focus more on your career goals, which is the key essence of the essay topic.
Certainly. And, to add to that, I have seen candidates spent almost 200, 250 words explaining why ISB, how ISB has the best faculty in the world, how ISB has the best infrastructure and the exchange programs and everything. And that is also a loss of opportunity where you, instead of talking about you, you're talking about ISB, which ISB already knows.
Yep.
So it is important to personalize your why ISB answer. Of course, mention things that will really add value to your own career plans, and ISB is good with that, instead of you preparing or presenting a list of all the good things that ISB has. Uh, Great. So that certainly touches upon a good part of the career goal planning, whereas long term goal is something where a lot of candidates also get misled with mentioning, oh, I want to be the CEO of an MNC or a startup. Or so these are some very standard answers. Think through it, be more logical. Everyone wants to be a CEO. Who doesn't want to be a CEO? Who doesn't want to own a company, start a company? So these are very standard career goals. Don't get into designations, as Sanjay mentioned. Touch upon the direction that you want to take instead of the destination, because you cannot possibly know the destination 10 years or 15 years from now. Great. So that brings me to, and a lot of candidates, a lot of participants here have also asked about the male IT engineer dilemma, where how do I differentiate my profile if I am a male IT engineer with so many people applying, and how do I still get into ISB, because I cannot go back and change the fact that I pursued an engineering degree or I worked with an IT company.
Sure. So, okay, multiple things. One is, of course, looking at a high GMAT score. So, as I said, that could be a standout factor. The other thing that you can look at possibly doing are the extracurriculars, showing your achievements, leadership potential through the projects that you have done, challenging assignments that you have handled, or any additional out of work or out of academic things that you have done. But Prashant, possibly you have more experience with such candidates. And I'll throw this question to you now. You should take a dig at it as well.
Sure. So, of course, when we work with applicants in the last 10 years, I would say clearly about 70-80% of the applicants we have worked with have been engineers, not necessarily males. So, though the dilemma could be a male IT engineer dilemma that we call it, but I'm sure female IT engineers face the same problem on how do I differentiate my application, right? So one thing that I would bring to your notice is, when you probably and hopefully you have looked through the ISB website, you have looked through the class profiles over the years. And one interesting thing is that 70% of the class is engineers anyway. I mean, is a group of engineers, and 30% is about non-engineering background people. So this clearly shows that ISB is okay with engineers. They don't have a problem with engineers. They can very well recruit about 50% of the class who are not engineers. There are enough number of chartered accountants and marine engineers and army officers who do not make it to ISB. So it's not that ISB doesn't have a choice, but if that 70% is by design and not by chance, then you have to tell yourself that, okay, I'm in a good space because ISB wants me. And why does ISB want you? Because post MBA, when you look for a job, it's the engineering pool of candidates who qualify for most of the openings. I mean, whether it's Amazon or Uber or Google or Microsoft. So if you look at the recruiter list, you would imagine that, or you would be kind of pleasantly surprised that, oh, I fit into most of these roles because I'm an engineer. So not being an engineer can be an advantage to a decent extent, but then being an engineer is a big advantage when you graduate from ISB. So then how do you get into ISB as an engineer? And obviously, though the school is okay with candidates with engineering profile, there are too many engineers applying. So you still have to prove yourself. You still have to go ahead and show how there are certain differentiating factors. And I would say the differentiating factors are the same that Sanjay mentioned when he was talking about how to handle Essay 1 and Essay 2. So the two keywords that we touched upon, your learnability, your employability, and potentially the leadership potential. So even as an engineer, you would still want to touch upon your learnability, your employability, and your leadership potential. But the difference is in how do you do it. So learnability again, GPA, GMAT. But then as engineers, you often go through a lot of technical trainings. You sometimes deliver trainings. So this is a good way to show that you have your good learnability. You are someone. So the fact that you have been able to, and I've seen a lot of candidates who are involved in delivering good training, because with 4 or 5 years of experience, you do get opportunities to train people or deliver trainings formally. So this is a good way to show that you're someone who has good people skills, good communication skills, leverage that. On the employability front, yes, as an engineer, you want to demonstrate your employability slightly different or pretty different from what several others. For example, for a chartered accountant, the depth of experience will be important, whereas for an engineer, the breadth of experience will be important. So you don't want to show that, oh, I know Java so well that I can beat anyone in a hackathon. But then you want to show that leveraging my technical experience, I have the breadth of experience where, and that's these are the terms, agility or agile and and transferable skills. So these are the things that you would want to focus on when you want to establish your employability. So think of with whatever IT project you're working on, there is either an industry or a function involved, right? So you either there is a product which will be sold to supply chain, or to cater to a supply chain function. There will be a client who is a banking client. So you have got exposed to some industry or function in the process of working in IT more often than not. Leverage that, leverage the fact that you understand how a product is developed, because you would end up working with a product company post ISB if required. Leverage how you've collaborated with clients and different stakeholders. So the keyword here is show the breadth of experience. And then, of course, leadership potential, where you have worked with internal teams, you've worked with external stakeholders. So these are ways that can help you present your people and leadership skills. But then this year, the good thing is SA1 does allow you to touch upon specifically skills. And in addition to your professional skills, don't hesitate to bring in any personal engagements, any extracurricular activities where you have also demonstrated some leadership capabilities. So broadly, I believe yes. If you touch upon these, you stand to be able to differentiate yourself well. Be mindful of the fact that these have to be backed by good examples. But I believe that that touches upon almost all ways that you can differentiate yourself as an engineer, and that's where your application and how you plan your or develop your application comes in. So yeah, I think Sanjay, if you wanted to add something, or of
No,
course.
that was perfect. And yeah, don't get too defensive. There's nothing wrong being an IT engineer, and showcase your strengths. Do try to stand out through your uh, experiences, through your achievement, and yeah, focus, make a good application. I think that's most important.
Perfect. Great. So, what also remains a fact is that a lot of people reapply to ISB, and my estimate is that anything between 20 to 25% is the number of reapplicants in the larger pool of applicants. So, how does one differentiate themselves as a reapplicant to ISB?
Okay. Um, so yeah, tough one, especially if you're reapplying immediately the next year, right? So you have basically had anywhere between say a 10-month to 7-8 month period between your previous application reject and your next year's application. So let's assume you applied in round one last year and you're applying in round one this year, then you have had around 10 to 11 months between your last reject to this year's application. Or if you applied in round two last year and applying in round one, you have had a lesser duration of time. Now, question becomes, what can you showcase that has changed during this period, during this 7 to 10 month, 11-month period that you have had between the last application to this one. Uh, a good rule of thumb, or some things to look at or measure would be to ask yourself, have you done something new and interesting? So have you taken on any new projects at work or outside of work? Have you taken on more responsibilities? Have you engaged additional stakeholders? Or have you learned something new that can showcase further value to the ISB admissions committee about your candidature? So recapitulate, look back at the entire effort that you have put in over the last 7 to 10 months since last reject to improve yourself and position yourself as a better candidate, and try to highlight some of that effort that you have put in. The other thing to maybe measure is, have you, irrespective whether you're not in an MBA program right now, you're not in the ISB PGP, have you continued working and moving towards your career goals? So did you, or were you someone who just sat back, waited for ISB to happen to achieve your dreams, right? ISB doesn't like people who are laid back, who are just sitting and waiting for the school to do its magic on them. It likes people who take initiative, who have taken opportunities to move towards their career goals on their own. And if you have done such things, then do highlight that. So that's the next thing that you can possibly showcase in your reapplicant essay. And the third thing that you can possibly look at is, how have you gained more clarity about the ISB program, and how does the school fit with your career plans, and what kind of self introspection that you have done. So did you speak to alumni? Did you speak to industry professionals to understand what was wrong in your previous application? What could you have done better? Have you tried understanding whether your reject last year was because of the application or the career goals essay that you've done, or was it because of a low GMAT score? If it was a low GMAT score, then of course do retake. As I said, the average of the school is around 710, so crossing the average does give you upper hand. So aim to do that. Even if you're not able to improve your score significantly, let's assume you were a 650 at previous application, and yes, there are applicants who make it even with 650, 630, but let's say you were a 650 and got rejected, and you retook and scored a 670 this time, which is not a significant improvement, it's a minor improvement, or you went to a 680, something like that, still showcasing that you did take the effort to retake the test, right? You had the commitment, you had the drive to put in that kind of effort, does show your persistence, does show the admissions team, the committee, the interview panel that you're someone who was really driven and is willing to go to any extent or put in the hard work to make it to ISB, which is your dream school. So do showcase, try to highlight these things. And yes, ideal case scenario, have a high GMAT score, have a strong application, have clear career goals. Again, on career goals, if you identified that your previous career goals were very irrational, were not making sense with your profile, were just too unrealistic or not well thought of, then feel free to reevaluate those, re convey the new goals, and be candid in admitting that your possibly your goals last year were not that refined, and this year you have done more self introspection, you have put in more effort to understand what the school can make possible for you, what is realistic with your profile, and how you have taken efforts to achieve those goals, and try to highlight, you can highlight that as well. So multiple options. Again, the word limit is a challenge over here. You can go on for 500, 700,000 words as well possibly, but given the word limit, you need to be careful about what you identify and highlight. And yes, there are plenty of things that can be done.
Interesting. And of course, as a reapplicant, if your concern is will ISB not give preference to a reapplicant, or because nothing much has changed, will I be able to get in? So of course, what Sanjay mentioned is, or are ways to differentiate, or probably differentiate your own application from last year by adding stuff that you have done in the last 1 year, presenting more goal clarity. But then what I would also mention is that don't worry if you are a reapplicant, don't worry if you are a second time reapplicant or a third time reapplicant. Interestingly, this year we had a candidate who made it having applied almost 5 times to ISB. So it was his fifth attempt when he made it to ISB. Not saying that you should keep trying. It can. I mean, of course, for him, because of personal reasons, it was important to not try any other schools. He wanted to be in Hyderabad and everything. But there's no reason to think that just because you're a reapplicant, you are at a disadvantage. Great. So I think that covers most of the broad level questions that we had planned. There are a lot of interesting questions that have come in through the chat as well. But there's a good overlap in the kind of questions you have asked. So I'll try and bring up some questions or most questions that address a larger set of questions. And first question that I would ask you, Sanjay, is a lot of candidates are concerned if they don't have experience with an MNC, they don't have experience with a startup, or probably they have experience with a startup, or probably they have experience with a family business. So is it a problem if you don't have an MNC experience, or how do you what kind of things you can touch upon if you come from a startup or MNC or a family business background?
So, Prashant, my approach to applicants is to go by the quality of work experience rather than the brand of the company that they worked with, right? So you can be with a really small sized organization, you can be with an early stage startup, you could be in the family business, or you could have done anything. What matters to me as an admissions officer is about the kind of impact that you have created with your work and what have you learned through your experiences. So that is most important. So truthfully, the brand, the name, the size of the company doesn't matter. It's purely about your contribution, your impact, and how that experience has helped you grow as a person and as a professional. So I'll focus on that. And as I said, the organization, family business, whatever, doesn't matter. The work matters.
Right. And what I would add is, of course, the fact that even if you were with a family business or a startup, use it to your advantage. Anything in your application, don't think it's a disadvantage. Think of how can I turn it to my advantage. So what you would clearly realize is that being an MNC employee kind of restricts you to a certain structure and the kind of autonomy that you have, whereas working in a family business and working with a startup, you do have higher autonomy. We have I just posted the profile of someone called Krishank. So he was a chartered accountant. He left a well-paying job, joined his family business, and then he was able to make it to ISB even with the family business background. So there are enough examples we have where people have made it well to ISB with a family business background. It depends on how you present your business and involvement in that business. But then the differentiating factor would be, what is your vision for your business? Instead of just saying, I want to grow my business, if you are leaving your business and if you are someone who is spending 35-40 lakh on an MBA, which you could potentially have spent on your business, then why are you taking that step, and how will it really add value to your business when you come back? So that is going to be important. But don't worry if you don't have an MNC experience. And then
Prashant,
of course,
you should possibly share with them your MIT Sloan Fellows application in that case. So
of
those of
course,
you who don't know, he's currently an MIT Sloan's fellow, and yeah, I am very curious to see your application as well. So yeah, we should do that
and I
someday.
applied with my business background, so I was not employed with an MNC or even a startup. So yes, I mean, if you can get into MIT, certainly any business school values what you are doing, not just the brand of the company. Uh, Great. And we have also posted a couple of LinkedIn profiles of candidates from IT background in the chat. So you can go through that and understand or probably gain confidence from the fact that there's several IT candidates who have a software profile. They were still able to make it. Great. Moving on. Another question that I have is how important are extracurriculars? Some people are asking about should they join Toastmasters? Some people are asking about NGO involvement. So I would club it all under how important are extracurriculars, and how should one handle that if they don't have awesome extracurriculars to showcase?
Okay. So, my first advice to people is to do things that they enjoy doing and they're passionate about. So, don't do extracurriculars for the sake of doing them. Identify things that you enjoy doing, you're passionate about, and only then you'll do well. And that that passion, that contribution, that leadership would uh, truly come across clearly in your application and during the interview as well. So do remember, whatever you put in your application, you'd possibly have to defend it during the interview. So don't just over exaggerate things or do things for the sake of doing them. Do them with all your heart. Only then that would you'd be able to defend them well during the interview as well. Now, coming to how important are extracurriculars, do understand that the school is looking for reasons to select you and not looking for reasons to reject you. What I mean that by that is it's a selection procedure, right? It's a selection process. There are lots of applicants. The school is trying to select the right ones from so many applicants. So it's a selection based approach rather than, hey, I want to reject these people and you just filter them out kind of thing. So it's not like that. It's a selection focused approach. Now, identify activities that either show your passion or your leadership or both. Do understand there's a difference between you're doing impact related things and doing leadership related things. What I mean by that is you say that, hey, I am someone who's passionate about education. So I give tuitions to underprivileged children over the weekend, right? Now, does that show your leadership? Possibly not. It shows your passion for a particular cause, but it doesn't really show leadership because you're not doing anything strategic, right? You're giving tuitions, taking tuitions can be done uh, by anyone. You say any graduate or anyone who's got decent education has the ability to teach, has got an interest, can do it. So, what is so unique in what you're doing? How are you growing as a leader by taking tuitions? So identify things which can be more strategic, which are more impactful at a broader strategic level or at a society level or at the organizational level, rather than identifying things which are just execution related or basic and which can be done by anyone else as well, which don't help you really stand out. The other thing is your passion. So passion is visible through your activities, through your what you have done. So if you're say you're passionate about adventure sports, right? I personally enjoy trekking. So uh, if I say I do, I trek, I explore the natural habitats, I go into the mountains, then I should be able to really talk about it through activities. I can talk about the treks that I've done, what was the altitude I achieved, what was the challenges, was there any particular challenge that I tackled during that entire experience. So having those specific activities back up your passions becomes important as well. So think about it from those point of view. Yes, extracurriculars are a good value add if you have something that can be showcased that helps you stand out. Yes, they give you that brownie point, but they are not for those of you who don't have any such interesting things on the side. It is still all right, right? There are applicants who make it even without many extracurriculars or many outside of work leadership examples. So it is all right. You can still make it. If you have something, then yes, great. But if you don't have, don't get disheartened. Focus on the other aspects of the application and you can possibly still make it.
Yeah, I think the key statement there is the fact that it's a selection process and it's not a rejection process. So as long as you can present enough reasons why ISB should be interested in you as a candidate, there are 900 seats. So it's not a 10% selection process. So and
Yeah.
it's potentially the highest number of seats
Any
comparable to
Indian eligible
Harvard.
has. Yep.
Yeah. So great. Another interesting question is what is the difference in approach when you have a very high experience versus low work experience? And so probably I'll take a shot at it. Having worked with several candidates with high experience. So what I see is that when you have low experience, you haven't got enough opportunity, so you can't be blamed for that, because in 3 years potentially there is only so much you can do. But you do see in ISB class profiles there are enough candidates with 2.5 3 years experience, whereas there are people with 8 years, 9 years, 10 years experience who also make it, and you cannot be pitched to those candidates when you have high experience. And there are a lot of participants here with 8 9 years of experience I see in the chat window, whose question is also about how do I what do I focus on. So I would say the key difference is, or the keywords will be leadership potential versus demonstrated leadership. So if you are a young candidate, you have to demonstrate leadership potential. You may not have led teams of 10 15 20, but then you can certainly demonstrate leadership potential with the quality of work that you have done. One great way to show leadership potential is the initiatives you have taken. I mean, have you just done what has been assigned to you, or are you someone who likes to take initiatives? Are you someone who is ahead of what is being asked of you? Of course, career progression. So in limited time, if you have progressed well in your career, then one can easily extrapolate and assume that you'll continue to do well beyond. Whereas with 8 9 years of experience, you cannot count on leadership potential. You have got enough time to demonstrate that you have led projects, you have led people, you have led budgets. So demonstrate leadership. Leadership should be oozing out of your application. I mean, they are better off taking someone with 4 5 years of experience if they had to take someone just for a standard profile. So if you are coming in, by the way, in a batch of 900, there is just about 5% of the class with 8 plus years of experience. So you are competing for very few seats. And if you cannot differentiate your application, if you cannot show that you are really a good value add to the class, you will bring in a lot of depth to the discussions when you are in the class, then you're not doing justice to your application. So yeah, I think that probably answers how one should approach high work X versus low work X. What I'm happy to do is also post a LinkedIn profile of someone called Atul, who is currently working with McKinsey. Because a lot of questions I see here are about candidates who come from a non-traditional background. So you have not worked with the corporate, you have not worked with a startup, you have not worked with a family business, you probably were a researcher. And this candidate I just posted the LinkedIn profile of, so he was a researcher, then he worked with government of India. So I see in the comments there are a lot of questions about working with the government. So this candidate throughout, he never had corporate exposure, but he did well. He got into ISB, and eventually, or currently, he's working with McKinsey. So there are enough examples, especially if you work with the government in the past, or even if you have not worked with the government in the past, Andhra government, and there are consulting companies like PwC and KPMG. So they recruit a lot for public sector consulting if you have the right exposure. I remember one of our candidates, when he graduated from ISB, he got to work with PwC and eventually landed up with a project with the Jharkhand government, where he was involved directly in developing the chief minister's dashboard on healthcare and education, and he really loved that job. So there is enough scope if you don't have a standard corporate experience. Consulting companies work on a very diverse range of projects. Governments recruit directly from ISB, so good scope there. Great. Then I do see a lot of questions about round one versus round two versus round three. So Sanjay, if you could help us understand what should one's approach be, whether they can wait for round two or round one. Of course, we don't have round two right now, but it will be sometime either November or January. But then, what should be the approach? How does one assess their chances in round one versus round two?
So, Prashant, interestingly, this year, what the admissions team has communicated so far is that there's going to be no round three. So, unlike last year, and even in some previous years where there was a round three, now this year it seems there's going to be no round three, so it's only going to be round two. So, round one date is 20th of September. Round two dates have not yet been announced. So, if you go to the application portal right now, just check the link. It says to be uh, decided or to be announced kind of thing. As you correctly said, it could be sometime in November, December, or at best Jan. So truthfully, there's not going to be much time. What I mean is that if you're aiming for round two, and ISB saying that the round two deadline is going to be announced closer to the round one deadline, and if the round two deadline comes early, right? Let's say you're expecting a Jan or a December deadline, but the round two deadline comes in November, then you would have lesser time to finish your GMAT preparation, finish your application, and you would do justice to both of them. So that's why focus on doing it as soon as possible. Focus on making a head start, getting your GMAT score in place, getting your application in place as soon as possible. The other thing to keep in mind this year, especially, is that there are more than 200 deferrals from last year. So what I mean is for the 2021 intake, there are around 200 admits who were from the 2020, this year's intake, who are deferred to the 2021 intake. So now, consequently, even if we assume that, say, 80% of those deferred candidates are going to come back and join the cohort next year, ISB is consequently going to be admitting, say, in proportionate terms, 160, 200 fewer students this year compared to last year. So there would be more applicants competing for fewer spots, and the number of spots or seats available would go down further in round two. So if you are able to finish your GMAT before, say, September, by middle of September, uh, and yes, if you can alongside focus on making a strong application, then I would recommend applying in round one. That is your best option. Uh, if you're not able to do that, if you're not able to do justice to your GMAT score or your application, then yes, round two is the option you're looking at. But ideally, round one is what I would recommend.
Certainly, and clearly, I mean, you don't need to be a scientist to know that yes, there are deferrals because of COVID. There are, and it's basic math that there's going to be less number of seats. So this is not going to be an easy year to apply. On the contrary, this is going to be a more difficult year to apply. So and why do I say this now is because we are in July. So if you were to target the 20th September deadline, then why not? I mean, you can very well plan your time and be mindful of the fact that round two will have lower number of seats owing to deferrals, as well as seats that have been already given out to round one candidates.
Prashant, one highlight or one point for the candidates who are here is not to wait for, let's say you're planning to take your GMAT in August end or beginning of September. Don't wait for your GMAT score to come in before starting work on your application, right? What may happen is you may do really well on the GMAT. Let's say you are taking the GMAT on 10th September. You may do really well on the GMAT. You may get your dream score or really high score. but you don't do justice to your application, right? You make a shoddy second grade application, and in spite of a high GMAT score, you'll still get rejected because you didn't do justice to the application. So yes, focus on the GMAT. It's a very important criteria, very important parameter, but don't ignore your application or wait till the last minute to start working on your application. Similarly for interview as well. So do remember, ISB usually gives a 5 to 7 day notice from the interview invite to the actual interview date. Sometimes it's lesser than that as well. So you may have anywhere between say 2 or 3 days to 5 to 7 days to prepare for your interview. So don't wait till for the interview invite to start preparing for the interview. If you have got a decent profile, decent application, decent score, take your get a head start, start preparing for the interview in advance rather than waiting till the last minute where you really can't do much.
Certainly, and it is interesting, of course, with the huge number of applications, with interviews split across different cities. So we've had candidates who got an invite just 3 or 4 days before the interview. So, and what I often suggest to candidates is your interview prep doesn't start after you get the interview call, because while you're working on your essays, there is a lot of considerations, there are a lot of things that you think about, research about. So be mindful of what all can be asked to you in the interview. How can you further enhance your learning and research in the application, during the application process rather, so that you don't have to rush through your interview prep, which is again going to be a very important step in the entire application process. Great. We do realize that we are over time, but I'm happy to, and we are happy to continue because we're getting some very exciting questions here. One thing that we have touched upon, one thing that we have touched upon already is recommendations, but then I do see some questions related to recommendation, and I'm happy to throw more light on how to leverage that opportunity best. So there is only one recommendation that ISB has been asking for the last couple of years, 3 years or so. Previously, it was two recommendations, and now one recommendation. On one hand, it can be good that you have less work, but then it can also be bad because you have less space to impress the interview, impress the admissions team. So use it really well. A lot of candidates, one common mistake they do is take a recommendation 4 years, 5 years old from someone they worked with 4 5 years back. Not a great idea. Recency, relevance, these are two important aspects while choosing your recommender. So if you were to choose between someone who you worked with in the last 1 year versus last 4 years, because you have grown as a professional, so you don't want to bring in aspects or bring in qualities with, obviously, if someone is a recommender who you worked with 4 years back, then the examples, they will be limited to the examples when you were just pre-fresh in your career. So recency is important, one. Second, yes, it is important to take the recommendation from your current organization. Often candidates ask, okay, I have been associated with some NGO. Can I take from there? Can I take from a professor? Can I take from some startup that I have been involved in part time? But because if there were two recommendations, I would say no problem, go ahead to take the extra reco from wherever you want, as long as it demonstrates the right quality. But if it is one recommendation, it is important that your quality of experience, your professional skill set comes through really well. So try and take it from someone. I understand, schools understand that you cannot always take it from your current manager, but take it from someone senior, take it from someone who is in a position to judge you, and someone who has worked closely with you. So often you take it from a senior, but then that senior has nothing to do with the project that you're working on. So he sees you come to office, he sees you work very diligently. He doesn't know that out of the 10 hours you're sitting there, 4 hours you're watching YouTube. So there has to be good relevance with the person you are taking your recommendation from. Of course, there's one recommendation: use it well. So yeah, I think that was about recommendation. There are a lot of questions about GRE and IR. So I'll quickly just touch upon those. GRE, GMAT, both are good with ISB. They don't prefer one over the other. Yes, if you have been preparing for GMAT, focus on that. Don't think that probably I'll take GRE and I'll get an edge, or don't think if you're working on GRE, no problem. Similarly, touching upon IR, so IR is something that schools have access to. We do realize that sometimes schools selectively use it. Sometimes when you have a low quant score, it is a good indicator that you might be able to do well on IR. But still, it is not very obvious if schools are. I mean, generally, schools are not looking at IR as a cutoff. So it is an extra data point, and schools love extra data points because their entire application is about subjective evaluation. So don't ignore it, but don't be disheartened if you didn't get great score on your IR. It's okay to have a good GMAT and not so great IR if your rest of the application is fine. Okay. Uh, Okay, I do see something about the campuses. So of course, when you apply to ISB, you don't choose. You don't get to choose which campus you can potentially study at. So you apply, you get an admit, and you are assigned a campus. But Sanjay, would love your inputs on if, I mean, there is a myth or there is a perception that Hyderabad campus is better, Mohali campus is a secondary campus. So would love your inputs on how does ISB look at the entire campus selection, and what is there really a difference if one gets one campus over the other for that matter. You are on mute, Sanjay.
Okay, sorry. So to be very candid, I personally can't answer this neutrally. I am biased on this very clearly, and I'll tell you how and why as well. So I am from the ISB class of 2012. I did my PGP in 2012, and at that time there was only Hyderabad campus. So I studied on the Hyderabad campus. I now live very close to the campus. So I can see the campus from the apartment I live in. So I am a regular visitor. I still hang out there, know a lot of people in the school, the team, and all of that. So Hyderabad is where I studied. But if you ask me which amongst the two campuses is my favorite or one which I like personally like more, it's the Mohali campus. So that's why I said I'm going to be biased over here. I can't be neutral over here. I really enjoy the vibe, the feel of the Mohali campus. It's a more compact campus, fewer students. So I believe the students bond better with each other on the Mohali campus. And of course, the faculty is the same, right? Whether you're studying on the Hyderabad campus or the Mohali campus, you'll possibly learn from same or similar people. Some of the visiting faculty would teach on the Mohali campus only, some would teach on the Hyderabad campus only, some would teach on both. So you finally end up getting the same ISB experience. But with Mohali, you get to be in the beautiful city of Chandigarh in a more compact environment. Uh, Better food, according to me, as well. So Mohali is my personal favorite, but from the school's point of view, it doesn't matter. Uh, you're gonna get the same learning experience, same career opportunities. You are still gonna be an ISB alumnus 5 years, 10 years, or 3 years. Even immediately after the program, most people are not even gonna ask you which campus you studied on. They would be like, they are just gonna be in awe of you because you're an ISB alum. So that's most important, that you get a great learning experience, get the most value from your experience. But the campus really doesn't matter. So
Right.
whichever campus you get, pick it. You like go with it without having any hesitation at all.
Of course, I mean, I clearly see your love for the Hyderabad
Oh yeah.
campus when you're
No, no,
using all the
Mohali.
facilities as an alum. And of course, Mohali. I've heard great things about Mohali campus. I've had candidates saying it's
Yep.
like living in a resort for a year,
Oh yeah.
and the campus is so beautiful. Whereas, so there are pros and cons to both. A smaller batch does allow you greater visibility in the batch. You can take more initiatives, whereas a larger batch does allow you greater opportunity to mingle with people. But unfortunately, you don't have control over it. Not something you should be too concerned about because the
Yep.
placements are all central. Recruiters don't care which campus you studied in.
Yep.
Uh,
It's the same
so,
learning experience at the end of it. So yeah, don't worry about it.
right. And so there's another question about the number of GMAT attempts. So would you say that if you have taken GMAT, let's say 3 times, is it going to be a deterrent to your application? What are your thoughts?
So no, not for ISB. ISB looks at your highest score. So whether your highest score was in the first attempt or the second or the third attempt, that's what ISB is going to look at, that absolute score, uh, and not the number of attempts that you have had. So feel free to take it as many times as you need to.
Of course, I mean, I've seen candidates taking it 5 times, still making it. So for the school, they understand, sometimes they appreciate the fact that you are so committed to your MBA application that you have put in that much effort. It's not easy to take the GMAT thrice or 4 times.
True.
Though GMAT is a test that you cannot beat after a certain, I mean, if I were asked to take GMAT 10 times, I can't hope to reach 800 one day. So it's a very consistent test. So be mindful of the fact that don't get too stuck with GMAT, but don't
Yep.
hesitate to take it if you see that you can improve the score.
So usually what I've noticed, and just a detour over here, that many people who take the GMAT in their first attempt, they score, say, possibly 30 to 50 points lower than their potential. Some do, of course, well in the very first attempt and get their highest or dream score in the very first attempt. Many don't do very well in the first attempt. It's possibly the test center environment, the stress, or whatever. And many a times they do see an improvement in their second or the third attempt once they get comfortable with the testing environment. So if you think you have done below your potential, then yes, please go ahead, retake it, improve the score. It only helps in the long run.
Right. Great. I believe we have touched upon almost a good variety of questions that interest the group at large. And all these questions, Sanjay, you answered as an ex-admissions officer or a chief mentor at ISB Mantra. What I would like to close with is a question that I would like you to answer as an alum. You mentioned that you're using the facilities and great facilities to miss out on. So what are the other advantages as an alum? And probably you can touch upon the networking opportunities, and of course, anything that you want to add on how does it feel to be an ISB alum?
Okay. So yeah, the facilities, yes, they take away the cake. You have lifetime access to the campus, to the library, so you can use the rec center, use the library, uh, and of course, once you're an alum, it's your second home. You're quite literally, and you're always welcome on the campus. You walk in, the staff, the seal department, even the admission folks, many people would recognize you, know you from your time as a student, and everyone is very welcoming, very warm to you, and very helpful. So any kind of help you need, whether it's personal, professional, any issue that you're facing in your life, the school's administration is around, is there for you. Of course, the alumni network goes even further and beyond than that. So, if you look at the network, the alumni network is really, really well bonded. So you get a lifelong access to your PGP or PGP Pro or PGP Max email address or PGP MFAB email address, and all of these email groups are connected with each other. So it's a general group of all ISB PGP program alumni. So I'm including the PGP Max, PGP Pro, PGP MFAB, the PGP. So all of these are on this particular, they have this email group, and there are job postings that come up out here, help requests that come up out here. If you ask most alumni today, a majority of their career changes or job changes happen through that network. So they have either got heard of the opening or found out about the opening through the alumni network, or they were referred by an alum to a particular company and that's how they cracked the opportunity, or they were interviewed and or selected by an alum in that company to which they applied. So most likely for almost 80%, I'm just taking a wild guess, an assumption over here, that almost 70 to 80% of the alums, the jobs that they're working in today, that got cracked through the network. And it's not just about job, career opportunities, but any kind of help, support you need, the community stands for you. There have been cases wherein someone's needed uh, blood for a family member due to a medical emergency. There are 10 alums who turn up immediately. Someone's facing any challenges. Now there are layoffs happening. There is a recession which is looming, and if someone's facing career challenges, the community is around to help out. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, right? 5 to 10 years down the line, the ISB brand and the network is going to come, is what going to matter most. And that's going to play the most important role in your life and your career. and the school really delivers on that. There are special interest groups that are driven by the school and the alumni. There's an alumni association that does a lot of activities, a lot of speaker sessions, industry deep dives. So just a lot of information and a lot of support available through the network.
Right. Very, I mean, very unique. And of course, you talked about library, but most alums use the swimming pool
Correct.
and the table
Yep.
tennis.
And you bump into each other over here, and you have made some amazing friends playing squash on the campus. And I know people from across batches because of that. And yes, it's a platform. So if you're in Hyderabad or Chandigarh, Mohali, any place, or if you're an alumni, of course, you come for Solstice, you visit the Mohali campus for Equinox. These are the alumni reunion events that happen on both the campuses. And you go for those, and you meet alumni from across batches, across cohorts, and you end up making a great network through that.
Right. Great. I think uh, the participants do want to become ISB alumni because they're here, of course. But I hope we were able to answer most of your questions. We were able to bring in good insight on how to approach your application. Thank you so much, Sanjay. Thank you so much, everyone. Before we close, just a few housekeeping stuff. So, one, there are a lot of questions that we have already answered. So, do watch the recording. If you have missed a part of this session, of course, feel free to like the video on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching it. There is the ISBmantra LinkedIn page and email ID that has been posted in the chat. So reach out to us if you have any very specific questions about your profile. Do follow us on the LinkedIn page to keep yourself updated with the latest developments. And of course, if you're preparing for the GMAT, do attend the next two webinars that have been organized by e-GMAT. One is on critical reasoning, and then the next one on algebra. Of course, the details again in the chat window. So have a good day. I mean, of course, night. So good night. Hope to see you all soon, and all the best for your ISB application. Thanks again for joining us. Goodbye.
Yep, absolutely great seeing all of you on this session, and all the best with your ISB applications.